All right, let's check out this 3M cup mask. Is it legit or is it not? Let's find out.
This is an N95 mask, the same type the Biden administration has begun distributing for free.
Oh, the concentration's coming way down here, so that's a really good sign.
N95 is a type of respirator mask. KN95 is another.
It's very comfortable. I have a good fit here.
Properly fitted, masks like these can provide better protection from the particles that carry COVID.
If everybody was wearing a respirator during a surge, you would stun transmission because you have two-way protection approaching 95%.
That's 95% of particles blocked from being inhaled and exhaled too, thus the 95 in the names. But that's only when these respirator masks perform properly.
I want to make sure I get a good seal on it.
Problem is, it's tough to know if your mask actually has 95% filtration efficiency. A search on Amazon, where masks have been a top search term through the pandemic, turns up thousands of results, and underperforming masks can creep in.
And noticing that concentration coming down, but not as low as I'd like to see it.
So what can you do to find a good mask? And how easy is it to accidentally get a bad one? To find out, we bought some popular masks on Amazon and put them to the test with experts.
So that's that difference between there and there is the sign of a good mask or a fake mask.
This is Aaron Collins, also known as the Mask Nerd.
So these are my collection of masks. I feel like I have every mask that you might be able to get from South Korea or in the United States right now.
Collins is a mechanical engineer with a background in aerosol science. He says spotting poor performing masks is tough because they can look identical to the good ones.
That is the real crux of the problem is you can have a good mask or have a bad mask and you won't know.
His solution? Testing masks live on YouTube from his home lab, which is his bathroom.
If you just are given a mask and you don't know anything about masks, you're going to think, wow, I got 99%, 95% protection.
So we asked Collins to do the same for us, with the 3 N95s and the 5 KN95s we ordered from Amazon. All of the KN95s were listed as top 10 bestsellers, and one of the N95s was labeled as an Amazon choice at the time of purchase. The N95s we ordered all received certification from the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, or NIOSH. We boxed up samples of the 8 masks and sent them off to Collins for testing.
The test that I do is what's called a total inward leakage test. What you need for this type of measurement is two things. You need an aerosol source and a particle counter.
Without getting too technical, Collins uses these two machines to test the filtration efficiency of the masks to show how they perform as he wears them. The results appear on his laptop as he tests. Basically, the more this line falls, the better the mask is at filtering outside aerosols.
One thing you'll notice right away is that concentration has now dropped way down. This indicates that it's very likely a legitimate mask.
For his test, Collins is looking for the highest filtration percentage possible. He says N95s and KN95s typically reach about 97% or higher. Of the 8 masks we sent him, 6 performed well. The one that was labeled Amazon Choice, this 3M N95, reached 99.7%.
All right, well, 3M ones that I got, definitely real.
But 2 of the masks we sent did not reach the filtration efficiency Collins typically sees.
Uh-oh. Not looking good.
This one, a KN95 labeled Wanway, marked as an Amazon bestseller.
Yeah, 88%. That there, my friends, is most likely a very underperforming KN95, sorry.
And this one,
I'm doubtful.
a NIOSH-approved N95 mask from AeroPro, which came in at 92.5% in Collins' test.
I'm not convinced that this is real either. That's pretty low performing.
So after getting these results, the journal sent both underperforming masks, as well as the 3M N95 that tested well, to 4C Air, a lab that performs the tests required for masks to receive NIOSH approval. 5 samples of each mask were tested. All 5 3M masks tested with a filtration efficiency above 99%, which 4C Air said is in line with most N95s it tests. But only one of the AeroPro masks met the 95% threshold. The rest fell short, with the mask averaging just over 93% filtration efficiency. The lab said this indicates this batch would likely not earn NIOSH approval, as none can fall below 95%. NIOSH said it can't comment on the results, as the testing was not done in its lab. All of the masks labeled Wanwayne vastly underperformed, averaging 81.9%, with the lowest filtration efficiency at 77.5%. Based on these tests, 4C Air said this mask would fall short of the KN95 standard. Both AeroPro and the company that sells the Wanwayne labeled masks did not respond to multiple requests for comment. In a statement, Amazon said, "We take credible allegations of non-compliance seriously, conduct internal investigations, and hold bad actors accountable for violating Amazon rules and policies." After the Journal reached out to Amazon for comment, the AeroPro mask listing had been removed. And after the Journal shared the test results with Amazon, the Wanwane mask was still available for purchase. The white version was listed as an Amazon choice. So are these masks fake? That's tough to say. There's still masks that filter particles, but not at the 95% filtration efficiency required by the N95 and KN95 standards. And that leaves wearers less protected than they think. So what can you do if you have a bad mask? Well, you can try opening one up.
Let's go ahead and take a look in here. So the filtration layer is this layer here. This is the melt-blown, electrostatically charged polymer layer. It's polypropylene.
While the exact number of layers in a respirator mask may differ, the one to look for is this filter layer, aka the melt-blown, electrostatically charged polymer layer.
And you can see you can sort of pull that apart and see the sort of intricate design that goes into a filter.
It's that filter that traps the smallest aerosol particles, the kind that can carry the virus. But seeing the filter isn't enough to know for sure that it's a legit mask either. The AeroPro and the Wanwane labeled masks, for example, both had filtration. Colin says there are other clues you can look for to spot a possibly poor mask, starting with the labeling on the outside.
They got most of the KN95 standard requirements, although they did not get the manufacturer name on there. Make sure the mask is trying to at least meet some of the standard requirements. There are labeling requirements as part of the KN95 standard.
KN95s should say KN95. They should also say GB2626-2006 or 2019. Lastly, they should say the manufacturer's name.
If you just see the KN95 stamp on there, you already know that that mask doesn't meet the requirements of the KN95 standard. So what else does it not meet?
None of the KN95 masks we tested, even the high-performing ones, had all of this information on the mask. And that, Collins said, adds to the confusion for consumers. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention keeps a list of known counterfeit KN95s, or those misrepresenting NIOSH approval.
The N95 labeling requirements are much more stringent.
For these masks, they also need to say N95. They need to have the NIOSH logo or text on there, as well as the approval number starting with T and C. They also must have the manufacturer's name. You can use the information printed on the mask to verify its NIOSH approval against the list on the CDC's website. Still, that isn't foolproof either. The AeroPro N95 met these labeling requirements and appeared on the NIOSH approval list, for example. Here, Collins has another tip. Check the supplier.
If you're buying from a big box retailer, or you're buying from the manufacturer's website, or through their Amazon web store, so if you go to like 3M's direct site, the probability of getting a fake, I think, is really much lower because of that NIOSH requirement and the regulation that happens around it.
In the case of the AeroPro mask, the seller was Acumed, a medical supply company that also sells third-party masks. In a statement, Acumed said that as a distributor of NIOSH N95 respirators, we place our trust in the CDC, NIOSH, and the FDA to validate the manufacturers listed on their websites as approved. Acumed said it also plans to start independently testing the masks it sells. It no longer sells the AeroPro mask the Journal purchased. NIOSH said it will add the AeroPro mask to the list of the products it plans to audit this year.
I think it gets much harder to be trusting of the brands without some piece of third-party evidence that the mask that they're supplying is good. And I don't see that on Amazon listings. I don't see a third party that has tested the mask and said, this is the results.
Amazon said it has a rigorous seller vetting and product review process for N95 and KN95s that involves comparing masks against the CDC's counterfeit mask list and the NIOSH approval list, as well as obtaining test results from an accredited lab in China for KN95 masks. When it comes to third-party sellers, Collins suggests Project N95, a nonprofit that only sells masks it has vetted. Or there's one other option, and that's not to shop at all. The Biden administration has started distributing 400 million N95s to pharmacies and community health centers across the country. The masks are free and limited to 3 per customer.
I'll be honest, I wish this happened in January 2021, but it's better late than never. We will deal with more variants, we'll deal with more epidemic surges in the future, and the bar has now been raised. The bar has been raised to N95 masks. This is critically important.